What if I told you the birds in your garden have been studying your family individually, and they've ranked every single one of you? But if you share your home with anyone, a partner, a parent, a child, a roommate, there is a very good chance that the birds in your yard have assessed every single one of you. There's someone in your house that your garden birds trust completely, and there's someone they don't trust at all. They decided this weeks ago, and they've never been wrong. You never noticed, and there is almost always someone in your house who the birds like more than they like you.
Welcome back to Wild Yard Mind. Subscribe before you leave, because what you are about to see outside your window after watching this will look completely different than it did before. We are going to walk through exactly how your garden birds build these rankings, what cues they use to evaluate each person, and what it means when you are or are not the one they choose. Stay until the end, because the last thing we cover is the behavior researchers find most difficult to explain, and the one that stays with people the longest.
Sign 1.
The ranking exists, and it is specific. This is not a metaphor. It is not anthropomorphism. It is observed, repeatable behavior, documented across multiple species and multiple research settings. Birds that live close to humans, particularly the small songbirds that anchor a backyard ecosystem. Chickadees, cardinals, robins, wrens, finches develop what behavioral ecologists call individual recognition hierarchies. They do not see the people who live here as a single category. They see individuals, and they rank those individuals on a scale running from trusted to dangerous, with most people landing somewhere in between. A 2012 study from the University of Vienna, working with wild great tits, found that birds in residential areas responded measurably differently to different members of the same household, adjusting feeding approach distance, alarm call frequency, and time spent in exposed positions based on which specific person had stepped outside. The birds were not responding to the house, they were responding to the person. What this means in practice: every time someone in your home goes into the yard, a data point is being filed, and over weeks and months, a profile is being built. Not for your household, for each of you individually. Sign 2. The person the birds chose. Most households have one. There is usually a person the birds have ranked highest, the one whose presence produces the least disruption, the longest stays at the feeder, the closest approaches. In long-term observations of garden bird behavior, this person is often not who the household would predict. It is frequently not the person who fills the feeder. It is the person who is outside the most, moving consistently, calmly, in a pattern the birds can map. A gardener who never looks at the birds at all may rank higher than the person who stands at the window every morning watching them with obvious attention, because the gardener's movements are predictable. The person at the window is a variable the bird has to monitor. This is one of the most counterintuitive findings in urban bird behavior research, and it surfaces repeatedly. Deliberate attention directed toward a bird does not build trust faster than consistent, predictable, non-threatening presence. What the bird wants is not to be noticed. It wants the uncertainty around you to be resolved.
Sign 3. What happens in households that have lost someone? I want to sit with this one carefully. There are stories, and there are many of them, in the comments of this channel and in the research literature on animal-human relationships, of garden birds behaving differently after a member of a household dies or leaves, returning to the spot where that person used to stand, waiting on the branch that person used to pass, looking for a pattern that is no longer there. Whether that constitutes memory in the human sense, whether it involves something we would recognize as loss, is something behavioral science is still learning to ask the right questions about. What is not contested is this: the absence of a known individual is registered. The bird's model of the yard included that person. When the pattern stops, the model is disrupted. A woman wrote to this channel about her father, who had kept a garden for 30 years. After he died, she noticed the robin that had spent 2 decades in that yard, continuing to arrive at the time he used to appear in the mornings. It would sit at the edge of the lawn for several minutes, then leave.
She asked me what I thought that meant. I told her what I believe is true. The bird knew him. It had built a model of him that was detailed enough to persist after he was gone. And what she was watching in those mornings, that brief stillness at the edge of the lawn, Was the bird encountering the absence of someone specific? Whether there is more to it than that, whether that absence carries something we don't yet have the science to measure, I'm not going to tell you. I don't think that is mine to say. But I will say this, you were right to notice it. The robin was right to return.
The birds in your yard have ranked every person in your household. They have been doing it quietly, systematically, without a single person knowing it was happening. Now you know. Go outside tomorrow morning. Watch who the birds move toward. Watch who makes the feeder go still. The hierarchy is already there. You just didn't have the language for it yet. Tell me in the comments, who in your household do the birds trust most? And if you already know the answer, if there's someone who the birds always seem to prefer, tell me about them. What were they like in the yard? I read every one. And those answers tell me something the research never quite captures. I'll see you in the next one.